Dr. Phyllis Hubbard, and I am so excited to be joined by Charlene Triche. Charlene, thank you so much for joining in and for taking the time to share your story with everyone.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome.
Ah, So, because the people who are watching have no idea about why I'm extremely excited right now, we have to tell the background story. We have to tell the background story before we get into this. So, this conversation is really about heal. There are three parts, and so this heal portion, we're going to start with the origin of your story, Charlene. And
Okay.
as I've mentioned on many other videos that I've done for this series, I don't really like to talk about the word cancer because we focus on the healing, right? But we have to talk about it today because
Right.
that's how we found each other, right? We found each
That's right. That's right.
right when we both lived in New Mexico. Neither one of us live in New Mexico now, but we both lived in
No.
Mexico, and you found me. And so let's just start there. How did you find me and why?
Well, the interesting thing, I really first met you at the Breast Cancer Resource Center. They were having their opening.
Right.
St. Joseph's, they were having their opening, their first opening. It was beautiful too, and I met you
Mhm.
there. And you gave me information. I was like, yeah, because I really was, to be honest, I was so bound in religion, and I know we won't get into that, but I was, and we were taught, oh, that's like witchcraft. Oh no. So I was scared. I was scared of anything natural. I was scared of because I had never been really introduced to it.
Right.
So I think a few years after that, I can't remember who gave me your number, but I was healing from cancer from the treatment, and it had to be somebody, a massage person. I don't really remember. But then I remember calling you. And then when I finally got to see you, I was like, oh my God, I know you. I met you at the Breast Cancer Resource Center.
Mhm.
And it was specifically for, I just wanted to feel better because my body felt horrible. And, the person that referred me say, in fact, I know who it was. It was a young lady that you work with. I don't remember her name, but she worked for Loveless Hospital, and I
Yeah.
believe she was
Yes.
yeah, yeah, and so she gave me your number because she was actually giving me a massage, and
Yeah.
so she said, I think you would benefit from seeing her because she was telling me all about what you did, and I was like, that sounds so good.
Mhm.
She was like, every disease is really can be cured, and so I was like, really? Because we were taught that once you get it, that's it. You're just gonna die from it.
Well, that's
And
the story. That's the narrative that we've all been told. Our bodies are self-healing geniuses, but we're told that we're walking down the street and then a disease just drops in on our body, and oh well, just take medicine and die. That's what happens, right? And that
right,
was not my story. Certainly, it's not been your story. So I want to pause
no,
and go back to something that you said, just because the reason why we're having this conversation is because we have to provide a voice for people of color. And we know that the
yeah,
journey for cancer treatment and recovery, the whole bit, is very, very different for people of color than it is for anyone else, right? So it's extremely
yes,
important that this is understood because it is likened to a medical apartheid that has happened to
yes,
us, right? And so we have to, in order for us to heal properly, we really have to share our stories and empower people of color to be very strong advocates for their own self-care, as well as educate the broader community in how to treat us with the respect and the love and the care that we deserve, right? So I want to
yes.
go back to what you said. You said when you first met me, apparently something I said to you sounded sort of like witchcraft, right? But then time went by and then it didn't sound so crazy anymore. So tell
No.
me a little bit about that journey, because we know that particularly people of color and particularly African Americans have definitely been colonized to be bound and trapped into believing that you know, these cultural or religious aspects of our lives, you know, kind of blind us even to
Right.
common sense, right? It gets to the point where
That's
even
correct.
common sense we're blinded and we're not able to see that. And you said anything natural you were afraid of, which sounds counterintuitive.
Right.
It's important to say it out loud, because I don't think a lot of people realize that that's what's happening. So let
Yeah.
me know what your thoughts are there.
You know, it was I guess it was the piece about you. I said, oh, she must be a Buddhist. And so, because everyone I had met in Albuquerque in the natural community were either Hindus or Buddhists. And a few I didn't know, because I was taught a different way.
Mhm.
I was programmed. Let me say that. I was programmed a different way. And so and then it was the fact that it was like it was, you know, people were talking about Rinky and all, and it was Qigong. I was like, Qigong. Oh my God.
Look, I don't
That
know
was
what
it
it is,
right
but it
there.
sounds
It was
crazy.
Qigong. I was like, energy exercise. Oh my God. So I just sat there and smiled. I said, oh, this must be witchcraft. I really did. I really believed that,
Wow.
because that's how I was programmed.
Yeah.
But something was stirring in me. And it was like my internal parts was like, no, you need to open your heart for this. And even though I was scared, I needed, and my body was so wrecked, and my mind from the treatment, because people don't understand cancer, is poison, you know. And so literally our body is dying, but the treatment is killing us more. And it's the will inside of us. It takes a military type strength to fight it. So when you say we're warriors, we are warriors.
Yeah.
And we do end up with PTSD,
Yeah.
many of us.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you
So
so
I
much
was
for
scared.
sharing that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, it's important for me to acknowledge that I was scared too. You know, when I was struggling with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and I was led to a book by Deepak Chopra called Perfect Health, I was like, A, that does not exist, because I've been struggling for 27 years, you know, with this disease, right? And B, the stuff he was talking about was like, you need to change how you live your life and deal with emotions. I'm like, just tell me what I need to do to stop this cough. What's all this stuff about,
Right, right.
you know? So, and
I was the same way.
yeah, and I'm like, why won't you? And I know that you struggled, you know, when we worked together, you struggled with trying to, you know, implement some of the strategies because they seem too simple for you, right? And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so it's important for us to acknowledge that for people of color, that we've been given these narratives about, you know, there's only one way, and it is the
Yeah.
European style of healing, when we're not European people, we're Afrocentric people. Even
Right.
European people who are Eurocentric heal from Afrocentric traditions and cultures, because these medicines have been taken from herbs and then indoctrinated and changed, right? The chemical
Right.
compounds have been changed. So, you know, so we all can benefit from this connection to nature. And, you know, when you look at the Eurocentric pathway of healing, the people, particularly in Celtic traditions and so forth, there's a lot of connection to the earth, right? So
Yeah.
we all
Yes.
were
Yes.
connected to the earth,
Hmm.
and then you know, society decided to go in a different direction, right? And we've been dying
Yes.
ever since, right? We've been dying ever since. So
And
so
now
no,
it's demonized.
Yeah, it's demonized. It's demonized, but things are changing. Things are starting to shift now.
Yeah,
So I think
slowly. It's slowly.
yeah, and so we need to have this conversation. And that's why I wanted to start with kind of giving that overview of there's a tremendous amount of fear when we're looking at the holistic path. And we're not demonizing medicine. You know, medicine
No, they
definitely
work together.
they work together. That's the thing.
Yes.
And that's what I've been trying to get people to see. You know, I've had people that I've helped with cancer that didn't do cancer treatment at all and healed their bodies. I've had people that were in the middle of stage 4 heavy duty chemo. And I'm like, look, as a holistic practitioner, my job is to just help you stay alive through this treatment and then help clean that stuff out of your body after, right?
Yeah.
So there's a
Right.
way for us to work together. But the whole purpose of this conversation is to talk about your process of healing. What does it take for a
Hmm.
person to heal? And it is not just about taking a medicine or a prescription. There is a
No.
deeper process that has to happen. And
Yes.
so let's start from the beginning. What Tell me a little bit about your journey. What happened where you noticed something in your body was different, something wasn't right?
Mm. Well, I want to say my journey started. I was living in Michigan in the Detroit metro area, and I was working for a government agency there. And one day, I'm going to say it started with me having pain issues. That's when I noticed my body I didn't even know my body was breaking down. My thing was, oh, something's wrong. Let me just go get some medicine to fix it. See?
Right.
And so that's when it started. So that was the fibromyalgia. So when it got worse, I was, really focusing on, I was getting my degree and I was working really hard and stressing my body out, but I didn't know that. I didn't realize temples should not be stressed like that. And so as I continued on, I just kept ignoring my body and then my hair started falling out. And I was like, wow, why is that happening? And so I started to, I was kind of traumatized by doctors a bit at that point from the fibromyalgia journey because they were like, that's just in your head. And the other was like, no, it's in your body. And so it was just like, well, you calling me crazy. And it was so confusing.
Yeah.
And so with that being said, I was like, oh, go to another doctor. So I had went for just a regular mammogram, and my gynecologist at the time, when my scans came back, they called and said they're inconclusive, and you need to go get another one. And I was in the midst of moving to Albuquerque at the time. Like when I tell you, it was like maybe a few days before I was moving to Albuquerque. So I just went in the office and I was like, I'll just, it'll be fine. I'll let the greater one take care of that, because that's the way I was taught.
Mhm.
And so I hit the road. It was a 3-day journey. In that journey, I experienced going through like a ice storm in Oklahoma, and it was very stressful. So I was like on the freeway longer than normal, and so my body was so stressed out. And then now I'm going up in higher elevations, and people don't realize, I didn't even know, as you go up, things happen to your body. So once I got to Albuquerque, about maybe a week later, I promise you, I was guided. I never have done this before, to just feel right under my armpit, and I felt something that felt like a grape. And I said, oh, maybe that's what they meant about the inconclusive, mammogram. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna have to call my doctor. But I was still trying to get, indoctrinated into the, where I currently was, that I just said, well, I'll do it next week. I put it off. And so probably a week later, the same thing happened. I went up under my arm, and by this time it felt like a plum. And I was like, well, that's a concern. So by that time, my doctor called me. And so she was like, hey, I really feel like you really need to go get another mammogram. And so we worked that out. She mailed me a prescription. The, the, the rest of it was finding the right medical facility, because I was in a new state. Here I am with a doctor prescription out of state. I didn't think it was a problem because I felt, you're a doctor, you should be able to do what you want to do wherever you want.
Right.
Well, that's not the case.
Right.
And so I finally got in with Loveless Hospital. They were very kind and they didn't care about any of that. I could say in that way, they were very warm and welcoming. They worked all that out and it took the stress off of me. Everywhere else, it was like stress. And so I had a mammogram. The mammogram led to ultrasound. And the ultrasound, they were like, because my blood work was all coming back negative. So they was like, we don't believe you have cancer. We don't really know what's going on, but I'm just going to go ahead and let you see a surgeon. And so the surgeon, she was like, well, you can either get a biopsy or we could just cut it out and examine it from there. And I was like,
so let me
okay.
pause.
She said, well,
Let me pause there. Biopsy of what? Did she tell you what it was? Did they know what it was at that time?
They didn't know. No, they didn't know what it was. They
So
just knew I had
we don't know what
swollen
it is,
lip.
but we're going to just cut it out and see what happens from there.
Right. And
Okay.
so all they knew is I had swollen lymph nodes under my armpit, because remember, all my blood work was coming back negative. And at the time, I actually ended up seeing the head of the oncology unit he was working in between UNMH and Loveless. And so, that's all, part of a greater plan that I would get someone like this. And so he was like, well, we don't think you have cancer, And so he said, but just in case, I'll set you another appointment. And I was like, okay. So the surgeon, back to her, she said, if the biopsy turns out to be cancer, then we'll have to cut the lymph nodes out anyway. No discussion, no, there are other ways. It was just cut and dry. Mm-hmm. And so I'm scared. I'm like scared right at this point. I'm like, wow. I said, well, I'm one of those people that cut to the chase. Just go ahead and cut it out. Wrong move. That was the worst thing I could have ever done.